Okay, hello and welcome in. Let me see if I'm straight here. For some reason, I always feel like the cards, or at least to the camera angle, never seem to be straight once I go back and take a look. But let's see here. You know what? I did not light my candles. Let me really quick do that. And then let me just take a really quick piece of sage just to start us off here with some clean energy. Kind of had a bunch of different channeled messages coming in as I was getting ready to come and sit down and do this. So I really feel like I want to give all my cards here. All right, I know they're off camera, but I just kind of ground my energy here. So let me see. Like I said, I really was having a bunch of things kind of rush to me as I was finishing in my kitchen. I was just cleaning up some dishes and putting them away and grabbing myself a drink before coming to sit down. And it feels like, for my viewers here, it feels like you're being kind of invaded with all kinds of thoughts, like intrusive thoughts. Wondering about, like, there's a silence going on. There's a separation of some sort happening between you and somebody that you're connected to. And it feels like there's this element of it kind of driving you a little crazy. You're just wondering, like, what happened is what I keep feeling. So what deck do I want to start with? I'm feeling like the Celtic Tarot. It's kind of what the energy is pulling me towards, right? I don't know. It almost feels too like green is heart chakra, and you know, the Celtic Tarot, it's got the green with the Celtic knot. And or the spiral, I should say. And because this feels like it's pulling on your heartstrings. It's, well, it's got the star in reverse. Now she's covered, but just for YouTube's sake, I don't know if anything would be flagged. She is, all her parts are technically covered by her arms, and she's sitting, but you know, the star is about self-healing and self-realization, and it's balance. With it coming in reverse. Now, again, I don't always read reversals, but that clearly came reversed. It kind of flew out of the deck. So it feels like that's the way that it's meant. Like, this person is turning your world upside down, quite literally. And my cat just came and joined me and to sit with me. Turn around. Yeah, come on. Your mind is just on overload when it comes to this situation. It feels like you get through your day, you do what you have to do, but in the back of your mind, this person and their lack of attention, their lack of communication is just bothering you, because you're just wondering, like, what happened? That's what this feels like. And again, All right, is everything coming in reverse? I promise you that my cards are all right side up in my hands. Excuse me for that. Let me just take a quick little sip of my drink here. So, we've got now the Page of Pentacles in reverse. Yeah, you are feeling, like I said, upside down. This person is quite literally making you feel opposite of your normal self. And right as I was kind of getting to that, a cloud must have rolled over outside because the light kind of changed and shifted. This one wanted to come out. What do we have? The sun. You know what this instantly made me think of? So we got the sun card, and right as I'm doing this, I was just saying that the clouds kind of came over for me. It feels like your light is extremely bright, and they're kind of more a person who, I don't want to say that they live in the shadows, but it feels like you are just more awakened, and this person is more comfortable staying, I don't want to say unawakened, because it doesn't feel like they're a person who's totally unaware. But your light, you know, when people shine brightly, we tend to shed light on others where there is darkness within themselves. And it feels like that's exactly what your light did. Your energy, your vibration, while this person was probably pulled in by it, it's the very same thing that makes them pull back. It scares them because it feels like you see them much deeper. Because your light is so bright, you see deeper into them, right? Like if we shined a light down into the ocean, the bigger and brighter the light, the farther down we could see, right? Into the depths. So that's what's pulling this person back. It feels like you're dealing with a person who's kind of ghosting you, and they haven't exactly cut you off because really they have no reason to. They think you're great and they think you're amazing, but they're pulling back their energy because you just shine so brightly, and they're not sure if they're prepared to handle dealing with somebody who will see the truest version of themselves, right? Like they would have to be openly vulnerable with you. And that scares them because they know you already see so deeply into them. So let's get a couple more cards. Let's see what we got. Death. The fact that in this deck, she's sitting on the raven. The raven for me is a messenger. It's intuitive. Death in this particular reading with this energy, it feels like they would have to kill off that version of themselves who lived in the shallow end of the pool, right? They would have to dive deeper with you within themselves. And they've been neglecting that because they didn't want to shine light. It feels like this person probably has some, not necessarily traumas. It doesn't have to be traumas. It doesn't have to be abuse. But from their childhood, they learned the pattern of staying quiet to themselves, not being open and talking about feelings. And you and your light opens them to a vulnerability that they're unsure if they're prepared to handle. And so that version of themselves would have to end, that phase. It would be the death of them staying like that introverted hermit within themselves. It doesn't feel like they necessarily, it could be that they're like a hermit by nature, introvert by nature. But you also could be dealing with a person who is more extroverted. Like they may be out there and having a busy life, but that may be part of the cover-up of not going so deep, right? Staying busy, always moving, always on the go, so that way they don't have to touch those deeper, darker depths within themselves and do the real shadow work, right? Like this is shadow. Let's pull another here and see where this energy takes us. You know, we've got a lot of reversals. You know, Nine of Swords is, that's like what I was saying, where you are in their mind, or in your mind, I should say, sorry. Right? Nine of Swords is like being plagued, staying up at night with these intrusive thoughts. Now, with the Nine of Swords being in reverse, though, this feels like you know, I always think of with the swords in reverse, even with Three of Swords in reverse, I always think of the swords with it being turned. Gravity is going to pull those swords out, make them fall, right? It's kind of like healing. If they allow this death to happen, that is what will happen for them. All those things that they kept bottled up inside will just be released. Gravity will naturally make it fall, right? It's kind of like a shield. They will drop their shield. They will drop their swords that they always kept up in defense, ready to use, keeping people away, keeping people at bay. Like a castle with a cast iron door and a moat around it. They were completely locked up inside. And so dropping all of these swords is kind of what you inspire within them. But again, it scares them because they've never done that in all their life. It doesn't feel like you're dealing with a very young person here. They may be a little younger than you, or even less mature than you, even if they are within your age range, right? I feel like I'm talking to women specifically here. We know that men tend to mature slower, right? I have raised both a boy and a girl, and it wasn't until I raised them that I really truly saw just how different they mature, right? Like when I was younger, like you kind of knew, you know, before, if you're someone who's had kids, you probably would say the same as me. You kind of maybe knew when you were younger, before you had kids, that like boys tended to mature slower. But once you become a parent, you really get an upfront, like front row seat to seeing just how different. And so it feels like this masculine energy that you're dealing with, in terms of emotional maturity, just moved that much slower. But you're inspiring them to release that and let that go. So let me see here. Do I want to... Let's switch decks here. I pulled this one last night for the first time in quite a while. Do I want to use this one? No. Let's go with my favorite deck here. I may pull on this one here in a bit for if we need to pull some confirmation on some cards. But I don't know. I always... This is my trusty favorite. Yeah. Remember how I just said that you've been kind of making them think of things different? This is them analyzing that. You're making them analyze the world different. Three of Wands is also about action as well, though. So they've been heavily, if you guys have not been talking, they have been thinking about moving with action. So let's see. Well, okay. But they still stay. It's like they wrestle in their mind as well. Like they've got you in your head, but they also are in theirs, right? They wrestle back and forth within themselves all the time, it feels like. Like you're inspiring them to want to create life differently than they have so far. But at the same time, it almost feels like, I don't know why I just heard you can't teach an old dog new tricks, but the thing is that you can. It's just making the decision to move differently. So we're definitely not dealing with someone who's super young here. This is someone who's older, who has lived their life a certain way, and they're not sure, as much as you feel inspiring, they're holding back at a period of rest right now, and kind of took a step back because they're just not sure if they really want to go there. Like I said, it feels like they have lived a certain way for so long that they're like, why change it up now? And it's funny because I almost find that so silly. Like, you're never too old to make that kind of a change. You're never too old to make any change, right? So let's see moving forward if they're going to actually move towards making the change. And okay, the Emperor. I want to pull a little more because I can take this card for this particular reading one of two ways. So let me continue to just pull on the energy for a minute before I speak on that. Let me see what else comes through. Well, we've got two that flew out here. Okay, yeah. So again, we've got the Death card. So it feels, and we have it right after the Fool, right? So I take this Emperor card again as somebody who has lived their life a certain way. They're established, okay? And so again, they're not necessarily so big on taking that leap with somebody that is going to lead them down such a different path than they have traveled already. But they are looking at this, and because you are so bright, again, it feels like you live life on a whole other frequency level than they have in their life. It feels like, you know, the energy of the Emperor can also be very kind of like the Hierophant, where very controlled. They already, like I said, he was established. So there's a certain element that they've established a certain amount of control within their life in the way that they have lived so far. And that's what another part of what makes them hold back from taking this leap. Because again, it would mean the death of how they previously lived their life all these years. And it feels like there's a part of them that's completely excited about that, right? Like, because the Emperor is coming in under the sun. So this is you and this is them. This is our central energies. You make this person feel inspired to live completely different. But there's another more logical side, and you have to admit with masculine energy, and especially men, they are more logical, whereas women are led by emotion. This masculine has traveled life following his logic. And there's a part of them with that logic that they would have to release and follow their heart. For some of you, this person is older, more towards like, not necessarily middle age, but they're not young, right? They have had relationships. They have lived some life, right? They've done the dance a few times, it feels like, with love, and it just never worked out. And it's probably because they just always stayed locked into this logical side. They never had someone really truly break down their emotional barriers. You may be dealing with someone who's a little bit more narcissistically inclined. Remember I said, and not malignantly though. Here's the difference, okay? It doesn't feel like you're dealing with a narcissistic person where I did another reading on this, where that person was like intentionally deceiving you. This particular person that I'm picking up on right now, it doesn't feel like they're that type of narcissist who goes around looking to try to manipulate you to gain validation for themselves. This seems like it's more of a person who, it's out of protection. I said something earlier about their childhood. And again, it doesn't have to be abuse. They didn't have to be abused in any way, whether physical, sexual, but it could be that fits this narrative a little bit. So for some of you, that may resonate. For some, it could just simply be a certain type of poverty-stricken upbringing that made them very insecure. And so coming up in life, they were more selfish in terms of, you know, when they were creating themselves and who they wanted to be in the world. They kind of stood their ground in this more selfish type of control. So, like I said, it does not feel like they are maliciously narcissistic, but there is a selfishness within them that they would have to release. And again, they're used to being this person who keeps their inner selves kind of locked away from everyone else. They're like a castle, they're like a fortress that is all locked up. Like I said before, like that castle that not only has like that steel door, but like a moat around it. Your light got in them though. So, with all that being said, and having the death card twice, let's pull some confirmation. You know, with someone like this, as much as you stimulate them, they keep you at bay. So here's the thing, is that we have to ask the question, it feels like, of should you continue this? Like, are they going to move out of this constant keeping their hand up, like keeping you at arm's length? Or are they actually going to let you in completely and actually change their lives, right? Or are you going to stay in this pattern where they push you away and then a couple weeks pass and they start to miss you a little bit, so they pull you back in again, and maybe you meet up for a date or have a great conversation, and then all of a sudden, you know, you start kind of touching their heartstrings a little bit too much again, and then they push you away. So let's see, is this person actually truly going to break their patterns? Or are they going to stay in that? Let's see, right? Because I bet that's why you're here. We've got the Eight of Pentacles. Let me see here. Let me see. Hold on, I don't want to speak just yet. Let's pull a couple more cards from this deck. Queen of Swords. This is you deciphering, making that difference, right? Using your mind. I think this is about you kind of, remember I said women are more emotional, feminine, more emotional. It feels like you have to maybe come out of your heart a little bit and kind of be like this person and use a little bit more logic on this. Hold on, let me pull just one or two more. Let me see before I completely speak on this. Sorry, you guys, I have an itch. All right, sorry about that. You know, the reason why I didn't want to say too much on this Eight of Pentacles is because that's like them working on coming forward, right? But that's still not giving us an answer as to whether or not they're finally going to actually break the pattern, right? It feels like you actually have to break that link in the chain and completely, they have to be willing to shatter the world as they knew it, is what it feels like, right? They have to completely break the chain. And it feels like you have caused a kink in the chain. You may have even broken a link in that chain, but it hasn't completely, you know, broken into two yet. It has not actually, like, you and the way that you are. This Queen of Swords energy is also about how your light kind of almost even took like that sword to the chain, kind of breaking it, right? But like I said, you haven't completely broken it yet. Like, you made a dent. You put your mark. But we want to see if this person is actually going to allow you to fully come into their lives. There's two here. Feels Judgment. So this is Rebirth and Knight of Wands. With having two different death energies here, we now have the Judgment, which is rebirth, right? This is like Gabriel sounding his trumpet and his horns, saying they're ready. And this Knight of Wands, right? Wands is passion. Wands is fire. Knight of Wands is, you know, clearing the path. Taking action in a new dynamic. So this person is moving towards you. It's just, it feels like they're still fighting. Let's go for a little more. Let's see if we can. Yeah, what did I just say? They're still fighting it though. That is the problem, is that as much as they feel for you, it's like they won't admit it to themselves that they want to move forward. They keep telling themselves, no, I have not lived that way. That's not the way I've lived my life this far. Why change things up now? That's not who I have been. Like I said, that old dog who just does not want to learn new tricks. And stubbornness. Like, this person is just stubborn. That stubborn emperor, right? This emperor down here. Like, you shine so brightly and they love that about you. It feels like they look at you like you are everything that they could want. Everything that they haven't had before. But they fight it so damn hard. You know, you make me, like, this person makes me want to, like, I want to walk up to them and be like, stop it. Get out of your head. Let your heart lead you for once. Like, that's what it feels like. I want to talk to this person. See, it's that, see, they battle. Here we go. This is still more of that same battle, you guys. Like, this is their heart and it's overflowing. And then we have this devil. I'm just going to use my thumbs here to kind of cover that up. And then we have this devil. That devil on their shoulder. Let me just kind of pull some things so I could sit this down. That way YouTube doesn't flag me here. Sorry, I want to change that. They're letting it's like they're letting this devil win. Like those, they're just staying stuck and stubborn. Yeah. We've got 5 and 5. It's like they're defeated within themselves too. And this also can be you, right? You're feeling defeated. And in that case, you guys, I hate to say that this feels like you have a person who's just going to keep you circling in a pattern because they're not going to let you in. And another 5 at the bottom of the deck here. 5, 5, 5. And you know, 5s are about change. But it just does it again, it feels like they are fighting this change. Like they don't want to change. That's... Is there any other messages I feel like I should pull on this? You know what? Let me take a quick look. Let's do the Witch's Oracle. Just for... See if we could pull some clarifying messages here. See what this tells us. You just have a stubborn masculine on your hands. Stubborn, stubborn, stubborn. They know that they love you deep down. Intention. It's also kind of like, because it's a wand here, it reminds me of like the Ace of Wands. But you know, again, it feels like they have intention sometimes. Like you make them feel like they would want to like change, like they would want to in the future, but they continuously stay in this circle because they keep putting it at like, maybe in the future, maybe in the future, right? That's part of this devil energy, right? As much emotion as they feel, and it almost want to again, it makes me want to go to this person and be like, hey, you're no spring chicken. Like you're not, you know, as young as we sometimes feel in this life, you know, we don't all get to live until we're, you know, old and gray. Like, why would you want to hold back from having this, from moving forward and learning to live different? And it feels like it's just because they have never done it before. And so again, you've got that whole old dog, can't teach an old dog new tricks type of energy. I feel frustrated for you with this. My gosh. Altar, dedication. I'm going to use this to kind of cover over the devil here. This card for me is about manifestation, right? Like the magician energy. You may have even been doing a little bit of ritual work to maybe try and help move this person forward, break up and shake up their energy. That's for some of you, not all. It doesn't have to be. But ultimately, it feels like, again, they have intention. They see the possibility of manifesting a whole new world with you. But again, they just stay stuck. So let's see if, let's pull another card to see here if, just with this manifestation. Get another message here. Help clarify. There was one that flipped. There we go. We have High Priestess. Responsibility is what it says. This is you again. This is both of these. It's like they see you as, they almost wonder, you know what? I know exactly why we've got this and this. They feel like you've got them under your spell. And that may be another reason why they're staying so stubborn against it. They're like, this witchy woman, I just heard, this witchy woman is trying to take over my life. Like they're trying to, this devil energy is trying to convince them that them moving into this space with you and living life completely different is a bad thing. Meanwhile, it's not. It's not like you're going to just demand that they live life for you and be all about you. But that's what the devil energy is telling them. So, this, with that being said, you guys, once again, I feel like you have to make the ultimate decision here. Only you can decide how you want to proceed with this. But to be very honest with you, this feels like you may have to just release this and let this person go about their business. If you're in a position where you feel like you're okay with keeping like a simple situationship, then by all means, keep it going. But I want to call out to you and remember, if you're here and you're in this place, if this person is actually turning you upside down in your thoughts, and that's what has led you here to watch this reading, then I want to remind you that nobody is worth pulling yourself apart for, right? If they are removing you from your normal natural state of being this sun, this dominant force, right? That's what this High Priestess is about. You're a spiritual woman. You're a dominant force is what I just heard. And so you have to ask yourself if it's really worth holding on to somebody who, even if they see that, it's like they just won't let it happen. Yeah. As much as you can inspire somebody to feel, that doesn't mean that they're willing to take action with it. So again, you make the ultimate decision, but I want to remind you that nobody is worth living in this space where you feel upside down. That's what I have for you today. I want to thank you for sitting in with me. If you haven't done so already, I would greatly appreciate a like to the video and a subscription to my channel if you have not done so already. So once again, thank you. Have a great day.